Election Coverage 2014, presented live by Temple Update.
Good evening and welcome to Election Night 2014 presented by Temple Update. I'm Beccah Hendrickson.
And I'm Stetson Miller. It's just before 8 p.m. and the polls are now closing here in Pennsylvania. This was the scene today at polling places around Temple's campus. Temple Update was there as students in the local community cast their ballot to choose the next Pennsylvania governor and a number of congressional races.
Looking at the governor's race tonight, challenger Tom Wolf has maintained a double-digit lead in the polls coming into Election Day, but incumbent Tom Corbett says he thinks the Republicans can win the turnout race.
Let's go to Phil Dupont over in the newsroom. He's watching races all over the country tonight.
That's right, Stetson. The AP has projected in Kentucky that Mitch McConnell will defend his seat, winning 55% of the vote. CNN's latest numbers in Georgia show a gridlock down there. And in South Carolina, Tim Scott is projected to win by CNN. We'll have gubernatorial House and Senate numbers for you all night. I'll be here. Back to you guys.
Join us again at 9, 10, 10:30, and 11 as we bring you up-to-the-minute results from today's election.
For Stetson Miller, I'm Beccah Hendrickson. We hope to see you back here right at 9 as we look at the governor's race, and we hope to get early numbers on that for you, as well as other races here in Pennsylvania. And of course, those pivotal Senate races around the country. Phil over there was just talking about South Carolina. That is a historic race as he is now the first black congressman to ever be elected down there.
Right. And we may have a historic results tonight depending on who is elected. We could either have an incumbent governor taken out of the spot.
Tom Corbett will, if he loses the race, he'll be the first to do that since the 1800s. For Stetson Miller, I'm Beccah Hendrickson.
Election Coverage 2014. We'll be back in a moment. Election Coverage 2014, presented live by Temple Update, continues.
Welcome back to Election Night 2014, presented by Temple Update. I'm Beccah Hendrickson here along Stetson Miller, and we have breaking news for you here. CNN and ABC have projected that Tom Wolf is the next governor of Pennsylvania. Tom Wolf is a businessman from York, and he is the CEO of his family-owned business, which it's the largest supplier of kitchen cabinets in America.
And this is a historic race because an incumbent governor hasn't lost in Pennsylvania since 1854. And it's something we haven't seen in a long time.
And we will have more information on that race coming up when we're back with you live at 9. That's it for right now. We'll have more numbers on that coming for you at 9 o'clock once again. For Stetson Miller, I'm Beccah Hendrickson, and we now return to regular scheduled programming here on TUTV.
Election Coverage 2014, presented live by Temple Update, continues.
Our top story at the top of the hour, CNN, CBS, and ABC are projecting that Tom Wolf is the next governor of Pennsylvania. Hello and welcome to Election Night 2014, presented by Temple Update. I'm Beccah Hendrickson.
And I'm Stetson Miller.
Let's talk a little bit more about Tom Wolf being the next governor of Pennsylvania. Stetson?
Yeah, so we had Wolf is leading the polls. It's a historic election right now because we haven't seen someone defeat an incumbent governor in many years.
Now, just a few percent of the vote has been counted, but Wolf is currently leading with just 2% of the vote, 65% to 35%. And we're going to go now to a big event that happened over the weekend here in Philadelphia. Tom Wolf got a little help from the White House in his final campaign stops, and we'll see that story in a second.
Final push to rally voters for what is oftentimes a low turnout midterm election, Tom Wolf brought in the man he knew could draw a crowd in Philadelphia, President Obama.
Hello, Temple!
The loyal Democrats waited hours outside the Liacouras Center to see the president speak on Sunday night, and that crowd of thousands spelled his message.
I got a simple message. We got to vote.
And that sentiment strikingly similar to what Tom Wolf told the crowd just minutes before.
If we want this election to actually deliver on the promise of those three things, education, jobs, and fairness, guess what we got to do? That's right. Tuesday, we have to vote.
The rally was for Tom, but it was the president who controlled the crowd. About 5,000 people listened and cheered when he told them why they should vote for Wolf.
here's the thing you know about Tom. He doesn't care whether the idea is Republican or Democrat as long as it works. He's a practical person who just wants to make it work for the people of Pennsylvania.
Tom Corbett was also in town for his final campaign push over the weekend. He was joined by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and more than 300 GOP supporters in Bucks County. And we're now joined by Dr. Michael Hagan, a political science professor here at Temple.
Professor Hagan, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, Professor Hagan, so we wanted to start out, Tom Wolf is currently leading in the polls. What are some factors that influence, that could still make this a race right now? What are some things that could be an issue still?
Well, the networks certainly seem to think it's all over at this point. Certainly the Corbett people were interested in whether turnout could influence the outcome. They were working hard to get their people to the polls today, and the Wolf people were as well, but the Corbett people were holding on to the slim hope that somehow turnout would skew in their direction.
Education, of course, was a major issue in this election. Can you talk specifically about if Wolf would win, its implications for schools around Pennsylvania, especially here at Temple?
Well, I think it's hard to say what the specifics might be, but certainly Mr. Wolf said a lot about education over the course of the campaign, drew a sharp distinction between himself and Governor Corbett. Governor Corbett had taken aim at higher education in particular in his education budgets over the first term of his administration, and it'll be interesting to see now whether Wolf carries through on the promises to carry through on a different sort of plan.
Now, we mentioned earlier that this race is historic. Can you tell us what's so different about it? Why is this so different than previous governor's elections?
Well, Pennsylvania governors have only been able to run for re-election since 1968. The state constitution prohibited them from running for re-election prior to that. Since 1968, no governor that has run for re-election has lost until today. So this is the first incumbent governor to lose a Pennsylvania gubernatorial election.
Yep. Do you think that the reason this is happening is specifically because of education, or do you think other factors such as Corbett's history with job creation and what Tom Wolf promised he would do is playing a major role in that as well?
Governor Corbett was never in a strong position relative to the Pennsylvania electorate. He entered office less popular than the previous two governors entered office. His honeymoon was shorter and less sweet than any previous governors that we know about. And he never really recovered from that. He certainly paid the price for taking some unpopular positions over the course of his first year, but he was really never a popular governor and never really got on track politically.
Well, Dr. Hagan, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Sure.
And we are now going to go over to Phil Dupont in the newsroom. He's been tracking national elections for us. Specifically today, we're going to look at the Senate races in Delaware and New Jersey. Phil?
That's right, Beccah. The Delaware Senate race and the New Jersey Senate race. We'll start off in New Jersey, where Cory Booker has been officially projected by CNN to win this Senate race. He is the incumbent. He will be having 61% of the vote as of 8:52 this evening. We go over to Delaware, where Chris Coons, who is the incumbent, 45% of the vote, as opposed to his competitor, Kevin Wade, the Republican, with 53% of the vote in Delaware. He is still projected by CNN to win this election. However, it is very close at this time. We go over to New England now. We don't have the graphics for you, but we will say a couple of things about them because we do have some tight races. The governorship of New Hampshire is up for grabs right now. Maggie Hassan has 55% of the vote, just about 55% of the vote that's being reported by CNN's polls, as opposed to the Republican challenger Walt Havenstein with 45.4% of the vote, and that is the governorship of New Hampshire. As for the governorship of Rhode Island, Alan Fung, who was supported by Chris Christie over the weekend, 37% of the vote, 14% of that vote is counted right now in Rhode Island. And in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, 50% of the vote. He is the Republican, and Martha Coakley, 46% of the vote. She is the Democrat, 14% of the vote in Massachusetts. That's what we have around the country. Back to you guys in the studio.
Now, Temple Republicans are at the United Republican Club tonight, waiting for election results.
Now, Corbett right now is projected not to win, but they're still holding on to a little bit of hope. Updates, Marissa Giletto is there, and she's been talking to Temple students and other members of the GOP all night. Marissa, what do you have for us?
Hey guys, I'm here at the United Republicans Club in North Philadelphia, where people right now are just gathered around waiting and watching for the results as they are announced. Right now, the room is pretty relaxed as people are just gathered around TVs upstairs and downstairs, waiting for results, but the mood I'm sure will change as more people are expected to come in later in the night. Now, although I am here at the Republican Watch Party, there are Democrats at Temple University. We reached out to them. They are not holding a watch party, but we do want to note that there is a large presence of Democrats at Temple University. Now here, I will be talking to people later on in the night about the polls and the election, so you don't want to miss that. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Marissa. And TSG's Director of Government Affairs, Matt Hayden, is now with us in the studio today.
So Matt, we wanted to ask you some questions tonight about, specifically the campaign and the amount of money that's been spent here. The Center for Responsive Politics reported that $4 billion was spent this election, making it the most expensive one in history. Why is spending so high?
Well, the common misconception is that these midterm elections aren't as important as, say, a presidential election. But these numbers obviously show you that's anything but true. The Republican Party has a chance to take over the entire legislative branches with this election. They are set to take the majority with 54 seats. That's yet to be seen, but those are the projections. They already have 2 seats that they already have seen to be won. In my opinion, they've spent so much money because the Republicans are really looking forward to taking full control of the legislative branch. As you know, there's been not a lot of action going on in the legislative branch between the rift between the Senate and the House. They're both working against each other as opposed to working with each other. This has been the least effective Congress in history this year. They've passed the least amount of bills. So I think the Republican Party is doing a lot to try to win it over, take this legislative branch.
Now let's go back to the fact that this is the most money that's been spent, especially on a midterm election in history. You said you think it's because the GOP is really pushing to get the Senate back, but do you think this trend is going to continue in the future?
Well, I would say so as well, because there have been a slew of Supreme Court decisions that have opened the floodgates for spending upon these elections. First they had a restriction on them, but the super PACs and the PACs that allow contributions to these have pretty much opened up for freely for allowing to spend. So I think going forward, especially with the 2016 election coming up, I think this midterm election has implications for the 2016 election going forward with people, some legislative keymakers that want to maybe make a run for president. So I think this is a trend that will keep going, and we'll see. I believe that maybe every year, we'll have new record-breaking numbers spent. So interesting to see.
And do you expect, so you mentioned the Kentucky race a little bit earlier before we came on the set here, and Mitch McConnell now has the potential to be, if the House, the Senate does indeed change majority tonight, what is the significance of that, given that so much money was spent with this campaign?
Well, the Kentucky Senate race was the 4th most. There was $700 million spent in the top 10 in the top 10 races. His was the 4th. He spent a lot of money by himself. He raised a lot of money by himself and spent a lot of it by himself. So he really had his eyes on that Senate Majority Leader position, as you could tell with the amount of spending he did. He won a close race. I believe it was 53 to 43 or something like that. But I believe that he had his eyes on that seat because he's been the minority leader in Senate. He's seen how the Senate's been working, and I believe that his ultimate goal was to take control and get his things passed.
Thank you, Matt, so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate it. Thank you. And we're going to go now outside to Sarah Veronis. We're going to bring it back to Temple. Education has been a major issue in this election, and it's one of the factors that brought Temple students to the polls today.
Let's go live now to update Sarah Veronis. She's on Liacouras Walk. Sarah?
Thanks, Stetson. I'm out on Paulette Walk as we wait for more of the election results to roll in. Today, I spent my election day all over campus talking to students about what issues matter most to them. Here's what they had to say.
Minimum wage, that way we can, get out of the poverty level that we're at, and our economy is actually not in a really good spot right now. I think that's important.
Being a student who's paying his own tuition, working to pay off all his loans and stuff like that. Definitely student loans are one of the biggest issues.
For this election, the issues that I'm really looking towards are obviously the education system and also LGBT issues. I'm part of that community.
Minimum wage is an important issue to me. I feel like raising minimum wage would be detrimental to people.
Well, definitely education, because I grew up in Philly and the school district is like horrible right now.
We'll tackle these pressing issues. Reporting live for Temple Update, I'm Sarah Veronis. Back to you.
Thanks for joining us again at the top of the hour as we continue to track the governor's race and other elections around the country.
We have numbers pouring in all over from New Jersey, Delaware, and even here in Pennsylvania with congressional races. Coming up at 10 in particular, we're going to have another political science professor on the desk with us to break down the latest numbers. For Stetson Miller, I'm Beccah Hendrickson. We'll see you right back here at 10.
Election coverage 2014, presented live by Temple Update, continues.
Good evening and welcome to Election Night 2014, presented by Temple Update. I'm Stetson Miller.
And I'm Beccah Hendrickson. Let's begin with the latest numbers from the governor's race. CNN, CBS, and ABC are projecting Tom Wolf to be the next governor of Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at some of those numbers in that race. And Tom Corbett is actually conceding right now. He's talking to his supporters in Pittsburgh. It looks like Tom Wolf is winning with 60% of that popular vote as compared to Tom Corbett's 40%. Election night, historical night, excuse me, as we talked about, Stetson.
Right. We have never seen a incumbent lose in many years.
Since the 1850s, I believe. Let's go live now, though, to Marissa Giletto. She's with the Temple Republicans at the United Republican Club here in Philadelphia.
Marissa, what's the general feeling right now there?
Hey guys, I'm here upstairs at the United Republicans Club where people are chit-chatting and eating food and still finding out results from the election. Now, right now, I'm actually with Stephen Zicker, who is actually the chairman of the Temple Republicans. Thanks for joining us, Stephen. It's a great pleasure having you. So now that the results are coming in, how do you think the election will turn out? Give us some of your predictions.
Despite the way Pennsylvania went tonight, the U.S. Senate's looking really good for Republicans. We're already up +4. We're expecting to pick up at least 2 more. We might actually get 55, 56 seats. So it's something to watch, but I'm confident that we're going to be able to win those.
Okay, so how do you think that those results will affect the nation?
I think that it's going to be the Republicans' time to step up. They're going to have control of both houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So they're really going to be able to either go against the policies that Obama and Americans dislike and don't approve of, or if they continue to aid President Obama and contribute to these policies that Americans don't approve of, there'll be a lot of shifts in 2016.
Okay, so now on a more local scale, how do you think Pennsylvania will be affected by the governor results that were announced earlier tonight?
I think the Pennsylvania is going to really pay for what they voted for. We're going to see the economy's not going to do as well. We have a lot of energy industry in Pennsylvania. That's one of the main industries here, and now Governor Tom Wolf has spoken out against them. So it's not going to be good for Pennsylvanians.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. From the United Nations Club in North Philadelphia, I'm Marissa Giletto, coming to you from Temple Update.
Thank you, Marissa. Now, that interview was a lot about the national outlook in this election. So let's go live over now to Phil Dupont in the newsroom. He's got some more numbers on the Senate over there for us. Phil?
Thanks a lot, Beccah and Stetson. Okay, so we have the governor numbers for the state of Florida as projected by CNN. It is a tight one in Florida. Charlie Crist, the Democrat in Florida, has 47% of the vote here. His challenger, Republican Rick Scott, 48% of the vote. This is very, very tight. We have 97% of the vote counted here in Florida. Now over to the Georgia Senate races. We have Michelle Nunn and David Perdue. Nunn and Perdue were in a race in Georgia where the winner would have to get 50+% of the vote. Perdue has 59%, and it looks like he's going to be winning this race in Georgia. That is with 50% of the Senate votes counted in the state of Georgia. Over to Louisiana, where we will see here on the screen, we have Mary Landrieu with Bill Cassidy. Now, this is one of those races that may need to have a runoff, and this runoff would take place in December 6th. That would be the runoff, December 6th. And it is likely that Bill Cassidy will win that runoff, as reported by sources earlier today. Now over to Kansas. We have Pat Roberts and Greg Orman. Greg Orman is the independent candidate in Kansas. He has 47% of the vote. Pat Roberts, 49%. He is the incumbent, longtime incumbent in Kansas. He has definitely been cracking down on the campaign trail in Kansas, and it looks like it just might pay off. He's just got to hang in there. That's all we have around the nation right now, but we'll get back to you later with some more national numbers. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Phil. Now, a big topic in our last hour was about how much money these Senate candidates are spending on the race, but they're taking some other measures as well. Looking at the Delaware, the Democratic Senator Bethany Howlong's husband, Dan Long, was caught stealing Republican signs, and he turned himself in when a warrant was issued, and he paid a bail of about $250. It was an unsecured bail, but How Long released a statement saying she was not aware of her husband's actions, and she's a little disappointed in him, as you can expect.
Well, how about that? All right, Beccah. Well, now we're joined by Dr. Robin Kolodny, a political science professor here at Temple. Dr. Kolodny, thank you for joining us here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So we wanted to ask you about some of the congressional races that we might still want to be looking at, some that might be close or that are, closely contested. What races might we still want to be watching right now?
Well, the only one in this area that was supposed to be somewhat competitive is the New Jersey 3rd Congressional District race. That had been polling so close recently, but this is the one that was vacated by John Runyon, so it was an opportunity that Democrats thought they had to pick up there. However, in the other congressional races in the area, Pennsylvania 6th and 8th, which have historically been competitive races, don't look to be tonight. The Pennsylvania 13th is going to have a new incumbent in Brendan Boyle, but his numbers are pretty much what Allison Schwartz's were when she had that district previously. The nationwide, only about 9 or 10 races look like they're in contention in the whole House of Representatives out of 435. And of course, as you've been reporting, control of the Senate is really what a lot of people are concerned about. I, of course, and many of us should be concerned about the fate of some governor's races. There are 36 states tonight that will have new governors.
Before we get more into national stuff with you, let's go back locally a little bit. Here in District 2, you have Shaka Fatah, who actually has 92% of the vote right now, as opposed to his challenger. And some people were saying maybe he's had that seat since '95. Some people were saying maybe he was going to lose it with a little bit of a scandal. Do you have a comment on that at all?
Well, there was, but there are lots of districts that are like the Pennsylvania 2nd, which are heavily Democratic, so lopsidedly Democratic that the only chance really of displacing the person would be in a primary. So the primary has since passed. The scandal broke from after that time, and meanwhile, the Republican candidate had, as of September 30th, not raised enough money to require him to file papers with the Federal Election Commission, meaning that he didn't raise $10,000 before September 30th. So we pretty much knew that the general couldn't be competitive, but I don't think Congressman Fatah is out of the woods. I think that at this time next year, you'll see that there will be Democrats emerging in the 2nd District who will want to take him on in a primary.
All right, let's go back nationally to the Senate now. It's projected that the Republicans may gain the Senate. They've received 3 new seats right now, so they need 3 more to take control. What changes do you think will be in the country if they were to take control?
Well, the biggest change will be something that we haven't been used to seeing for a while, because the president has had at least one of the chambers, if not both, controlled by his own party. So vetoes will become more common. It will be easier now for legislation to get out of the Congress and get to the president's desk. But that doesn't mean that a Democratic president will accept legislation that a Republican Congress sends to him. But I don't want to overstate the case. Some people might think if it's unified government, everything is going to move quickly through. And the Senate is a different kind of institution than the House. The one part that the people often don't remember is that the Senate has an executive calendar in addition to the regular legislative calendar. What that means is that the Senate has to confirm Supreme Court justice nominees, cabinet nominees, treaties, Oh, and then they can get to the other legislative stuff. So the House can literally pass twice as much legislation as the Senate will get to. So I don't think it means that you'll certainly see more things passed, but you'll see a lot more vetoes.
Right. Okay. And then now we also wanted to touch on just people, this is a midterm election, but why do people historically usually turn out in lower numbers during these elections as opposed to years where the president also might be being elected?
Well, I think that we're seeing this in this election in a way that's so different from 2012. There's just less publicity, and people aren't paying as much attention to the politics of the race because simply they're not getting as much information. It's not being talked about for months on end. We don't have that many visits. Obama came here on Sunday, but that's only one visit and very late in the game. Hillary Clinton's been here twice this year. This is not an extraordinary presence, and so that's why people aren't motivated. The presidential race is what often brings a lot of people to the polls.
Well, thank you, Professor Kolodny, so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your insight.
Anytime.
All right, and Temple students are also getting involved today and voting. Let's go live now to update Sarah Veronis. She's been on Liacouras Walk all day, and she's talking to students about the issues that matter to them. Sarah, what do you have for us?
Hi, everyone. I'm out on Paulette Walk as we are down to the final hours of this election night. Today, I spent my election day all over campus talking to students about the hopes they have for the next 4 years and what issues matter most to them. Here's what they had to say.
Right now are probably about gun control. Those are the ones I'm most interested in, mostly because of the shootings going on and everything just ranging from like police violence and police brutality with Ferguson to school shootings going on. I think that it's something that's going on in communities across the country and something that the government needs to address.
The issues that are important to me are job opportunities and like minimum wage.
Mainly like minimum wage is important. I think it's kind of like ridiculous how it's only $7.25.
Tax reform, education is huge actually. Tom Corbett slashed a lot of funding in his first 4 years, and I'd like to see that sort of reversed.
Well, hopefully these issues will be tackled within the next 4 years. Reporting live for Temple Update, I'm Sarah Veronis. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarah. And we have new information here. Tom Wolf is in York County right now giving his victory speech to all his supporters out there. Stetson, we've said it once, we'll say it again. This is a historic night for Pennsylvania.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we also want to talk about voter turnout here now. We have Matt Hayden from the Temple Student Government joining us here today.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Matt, thank you for coming back with us.
No problem.
So Matt, what can you tell us about voter turnout in elections like this? We just mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's not always as high as in presidential years.
Well, it was 37% in 2010 for the midterm elections, and like Professor Kolodny said, it's not as endorsed upon. There's not much press on these elections. However, does not say they're not very important. There's a chance for the GOP to take back the Senate, which would be a very large thing. But like she said, the presidential campaigns get a lot more press.
Well, let's talk really quick about millennials in particular then. Okay. We're all college students here, and millennials seem to have the lowest turnout at these elections. Why do you think that is?
Well, getting kind of the sense of the student population, what I've talked about, trying to get kids registered and get them educated on this election, people are disinterested in politics. They believe that their vote does not matter, does not count. There's a lot of information that doesn't get to them. There's not much press, so they don't know as much. So when they go to the polls, they don't know who they're voting for, what the candidates are actually representing, their platforms. So it makes it hard and kind of intimidating for kids, especially. So.
Well, you know, it's not only that, but as well, some of the people here in college, if they don't have a permanent address, if they live in the dorms or something like that, then they'd have to be registered at home, and that may be difficult to go home and vote for an election like this.
Actually, one of the questions on this year's ballot is if they should change the whole cycle with the way they do the registration, if they should do it online and make it easier, because it's very hard for kids to get absentee ballots, go home and get register, actually go home during elections because college kids don't have transportation, and they may live very far away. So those are very big factors on that contribute to people being restricted of voting. However, it does not say to the fact that it is very important for students to vote. Student issues are very hotbed issues right now, which would be student loans, educational standards, admission policies. Those are very things that are very real to us. And the college demographic has the opportunity to swing elections. The millennials are 44 million. There's 44 million millennials. We are the most diverse demographic as well. So we have the opportunity to swing elections.
All right, thank you so much
My
for joining
pleasure.
us, Matt. Now, we're going to go live now to Tom Wolf's acceptance speech. Once again, he's in York County right now talking to his supporters there, so let's listen in on that.
Pennsylvania was founded by William Penn on some of the most noble ideas at the time, freedom of conscience. It was an inclusive place that welcomed a lot of people to Pennsylvania, and because it was inclusive and open and free, because it was that kind of a place, we had a strong economy. We had a strong society. Pennsylvania is where this nation was founded. The Declaration of Independence, Pennsylvania. Our two constitutions, Pennsylvania. The Articles of the Confederation, which of course were drafted in York, Pennsylvania. Just saying. And the 1787 Constitution drafted in Philadelphia. Those principles of the founders were reaffirmed in blood at the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. We have two world-class cities. We have great universities. We have a location that is the envy of the world, smack dab in the middle of the richest market in the world. We have open space. We are one of the largest economies in the world. We have so much. We have some of the greatest people in the world, the greatest workforce in the world. This is a place that deserves to have a great future. We need to expect a lot of ourselves. And if we do, we can do great things here. So here's my message. Let's make this the time. Let's make this the place, Pennsylvania. Let's us be the people to actually create this bright future we deserve. Let's make this the time. Let's get started. Thank you very much.
And you can join us again at 10:30 for the latest numbers, but we have something special for you first. Coming up right here on election night, we're going to look at some photos taken by photography students here at Temple University. They're in Ed Trey's photography class. They've been out at the polls all day long with the students taking these pictures for class.
And coming up, we'll have more results from national polls as well as updates right here in Pennsylvania. We're going to return to regularly scheduled programming now, though, right here on TUTV. We'll be back within the hour.
Coverage 2014, presented live by Temple Update, continues.
So I thank the voters of Pennsylvania for giving me this responsibility. I also want to say thank you to the people who have made this campaign a success it is.
Your newest governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, he accepted the governor's seat earlier on in the hour. Good evening and welcome to Election Night 2014 presented by Temple Update. I'm Beccah Hendrickson.
And I'm Stetson Miller. We're getting the latest numbers now with Phil.
We're actually going to go first to the latest numbers from the governor's race. So let's break that down really quick for you. Governor Tom Wolf did win tonight against Republican incumbent Governor Tom Corbett. Wolf had 56% of the vote against Governor Corbett, who finished with 44% of the vote. Once again, this is the first time in 160 years that a challenger in Pennsylvania has outseated the incumbent. And not only are we looking at the governor's race tonight, but we're also looking at national numbers as well. So let's go over now in the newsroom to Phil Dupont. He's been tracking especially the Senate races all night, and those are very pivotal. Phil, I know that the Republicans are very close to taking the Senate.
They absolutely are, but first we're going to go to a quick governor race in Massachusetts. a Republican for the first time since Mitt Romney was governor of the state of Massachusetts, will be governor. Martha Coakley, the Democrat, lost 36% of the vote she had. Charlie Baker had 59% of that vote. So we're going to go over to Colorado, the Senate race in Colorado between Mark Udall and Cory Gardner. Gardner had 51% of the vote as opposed to Udall's 44% of the vote. The Republican will win, CNN is calling it, in Colorado. Now over to New Hampshire in the state Senate. We have updated numbers for you here. Jean Shaheen was called at 10:45 to be winning the Senate seat in New Hampshire over Republican challenger Scott Brown. They are currently tied at 50 apiece, but she is supposed to be the winner there. Over to Virginia, we have Mark Warner and Ed Gillespie. They are in a dead heat, and NBC News in general is reporting that this will be a runoff, as will the Louisiana Senate race. That will also be a runoff. And in North Carolina, we have Kay Hagan and Tom Tillis. They are in a dead heat. CNN is reporting as of 10:45 that Hagan has 47% of the vote and Tillis has 49% of the vote. So that is going to be a tight race in North Carolina. Now we have a national wrap-up for you here. The House, there's 104 Democratic seats, 180 Republican seats. They look like they're going to take that. 47 Republican seats in the Senate, 42 Democratic seats in the Senate, and it looks like it's going to be a Republican Congress come 2015. Guys, back to you.
And just to clarify what Phil was just saying, this will be the first time in years that one party has held the entire Congress. The Republicans are expected to now hold both the House and the Senate. Once again, they're just one seat away from doing so. And we're going to go live now over to the Temple Republicans. They've been watching election results all night at the United Republicans Club. Updates, Marissa Giletto is there with them. Marissa, I know you've got an interview on over there tonight. What do you have for us?
Hi everyone, I'm still here at the United Republican Club, and I'm now here with State Representative John Taylor, who is actually in the running for re-election for a seat in the House of Representatives. So, Representative, how do you think that the Republican Party is doing tonight?
Well, the Republican Party across the state, notwithstanding Governor Corbett's numbers, has done very well. We could have as many as 118 House seats, up from 111. We're looking at about 30 Senate seats, up from 27, which is pretty amazing when you think what happened at the top of the ticket. Here in Philadelphia, a little different.
Now, how has tonight's turnout compared to previous turnouts in the past?
Oh, here at the club? Yeah, this is my 32nd straight general election here at the club. We've had some very loud and long nights here. This is not one of them because of the results. So it's a little quiet here tonight, but a lot of these folks did a lot of work across the entire campaign for Governor Corbett and Lieutenant Governor Cawley, as well as other candidates or congressional candidates. So they take the defeat pretty hard when it doesn't go that well.
Gotcha. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks, everyone. So from the United Republican Club here, I'm Marissa Giletto reporting for Temple Update.
All right, and thank you for that report, Marissa. We're going to look more at some of the local numbers now. We have a lot of local congressional races, and we have one in particular we'd like to show you, and that's District 2 here in Philadelphia. It's the winner in this is Democrat Shakafata. He has held that seat since 1995, and he got 92% of the vote as opposed to his challenger, Armin James, who actually is in fact a Temple guy.
Wow. Temple people everywhere these days. We're going to go to the 6th District of Pennsylvania now. Ryan Costello is winning that district for the first time. Incumbent Jim Garlock leaving after 6 terms serving as the congressman there. And Ryan has served as a lawyer and chairman on the Chester County Board of Commissioners since 2011, and he's a locally educated guy too. He went to O.J. Roberts, Ursinus, and Villanova Law School.
All right, let's go across the bridge now to New Jersey. Looking at District 3, you have Tom MacArthur, who's a Republican, versus Amy Bellegarde, a Democrat, and they're looking to replace Representative John Runyon, who was actually a Philadelphia Eagle. Now, if you go over to District 1 in New Jersey, it was Gary Cobb versus Donald Norcross. Donald Norcross won with 57% of the vote. But Gary Cobb was also a Philadelphia Eagle back in the day. Not only that, but he was a CBS 3 sports reporter, and he is currently a WIP radio personality. So that's a Philly guy through and through, but couldn't quite win that New Jersey election.
Couldn't quite win there. Okay. Well, we're going to bring you another New Jersey election now. The New Jersey U.S. Senate seat. Cory Booker is projected to win that race. He will be serving his first full term as a senator there in New Jersey.
Okay, one more race we have for you today. Two more, actually. We're going to go back in Pennsylvania. We have Pennsylvania District 8, and that is Michael Fitzpatrick, who's the Republican, versus Kevin Strauss, the Democrat. And Fitzpatrick has won 64% of the vote so far. That's what the numbers are showing, but only about 53% of those votes have been counted. Fitzpatrick has been the representative in District 8 in Pennsylvania since 2011. That's Bucks County of Pennsylvania, actually. And interesting thing about him, he held that seat before in 2005 to 2007, but lost that election. And then in 2008, he contracted colon cancer, and he's been an outspoken advocate since then to increase cancer funding, and he's received awards for that as well. So it's looking like he's going to keep his seat there.
Great, good to hear. And finally, we have the Pennsylvania's 13th district. Brendan Boyle, the Democrat, is expected to win that district with 69% of the vote right now. Defeating Adderrock there, D. Adderrock, with the Republican with only 39% of the vote.
All right, and that will do it for our live coverage of Election Night 2014 presented by Temple Update. Thank you all for sticking with us tonight. You can stay up to date with us as we give you more numbers on social media, Twitter and Facebook, of course. Just search Temple Update. For Stetson Miller, I'm Beccah Hendrickson. Thank you for joining us tonight. And once again, we have a treat for you. Throughout the day, Temple University photojournalism students, under the direction of Dr. Edward Trays, set out to chronicle the images that tell the story of Election Day 2014. You're looking now at some of those photos. And after these photos, we will return to regular scheduled programming. We want to thank once again CBS 3 for allowing us to take their live stream of your new Pennsylvania Governor, Tom Wolf's acceptance speech. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
This 2014 election coverage presented live by Temple Update has been a production of Temple University Television.